Welcome to the BiggerPockets Money Podcast, show number 197, where we interview Nate Forbes and talk about saving for retirement with a big family on a low income. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Mindy Jensen, and with me as always is my legendary co-host, Scott Trench.
You're always labeling me, Mindy. He'll get it in a second.
Scott and I are here to make financial independence less scary, less just for somebody else, to introduce you to every money story because we truly believe that financial freedom is attainable for everyone, no matter when or where you're starting.
That's right. Whether you want to retire early and travel the world, go on to make big-time investments in assets like real estate, start your own business, or just pay off a small rental property portfolio and FI relatively early. We'll help you reach your financial goals and get money out of the way so that you can launch yourself towards those dreams.
Scott, I am so excited to talk to Nate today. I met Nate in our Facebook group. And if you're not part of our Facebook group, you should be. You can go to facebook.com/groups/BP Money or just search up BP Money on Facebook and join our group and talk with your fellow frugal weirdos about different aspects of your financial education, your financial situation, and see what other people who are like-minded can do or would do in your situation. And I met Nate because he posted that he had just paid off several of his rental properties due to some 2020 circumstances that he went through, and he realized, you know what, I want to shift my focus a little bit. So he's here today to share his story with us. Nate Forbes, welcome to the BiggerPockets Money Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I can't wait to jump into your story.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm a big fan, and this is awesome. Glad to be here.
Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about your money journey. Where does your story with money begin?
Well, I think it probably just growing up, watching your family, watching your parents, and how they do things. I think for me, watching my parents, they started on two incomes, but when I was born, my mom was at home and she just stayed at home with us the whole time growing up. My dad worked for a nonprofit, so we weren't making much money, but they were always, we always had plenty and we always had enough. I remember them listening to, I think it was Larry Burkett on the radio, and it was always part of our life. So I think just watching my parents and how they dealt with money and how they weren't stingy even though they didn't have a lot. So I think that was probably the biggest part of my journey starting, was just seeing how they manage money.
And let's talk about your experiences in high school and college.
Yeah, high school. Well, on the same lines, I worked in high school. I have to earn money and save up for college. I knew that was coming, so my parents said, "We'll help you as much as we can, but we don't want you to go into debt going into college. So you might want to start saving." So I worked as a janitor for a while, and then worked at a restaurant, and then through college I worked at all sorts of different places, and together, between my parents and me, we were able to get through college without any debt, which is unreal these days, and I think it was a huge start for my future.
Yeah, that's enormous. So what is your college degree in?
It's a Bachelor of Science in Theology, which is like what most pastors would do. I didn't really want to be a pastor, but I was interested in learning about those kind of things. So I really haven't done much with it other than school, but that's kind of how most degrees are anyhow.
I have a degree in fashion design, and I work for a real estate education internet startup and host a podcast about money. So my college degree really got me nothing.
Yep.
You're very fashionable, Mindy. What was your position upon graduating? You had no debt. Did you have any cash? What kind of job were you able to get?
Yeah, I think I had I didn't have a car. It had just failed on me. I had a Volkswagen bus, and it had just caught fire on a road trip, which was, kind of, I got a nice picture of the van on flames behind us. Yeah. But I didn't have a vehicle, but didn't have any debt. I think I had like maybe $2,000. Not really. I wasn't really thinking about money too much, to be honest, because my first job was an internship where I had a place to live at a camp that I was running, and I think I made $5,000 that year. So it was basically a volunteer position.
All right. What yeah, where does your kind of money story kind of like where do you get your kind of first job and you go I don't even know how to $5,000 is not, did you take on any debt with this position or?
No, I had a place to live, and so it was a camp and they had food, so I got to eat at the camp, and I had hired some staff I was like in charge of the summer staff. And I realized that they were making more money than I did in the, per hour. But, it was for me, I wasn't married yet. So I was just kind of doing what I wanted to do. And that's kind of what you get to do when you don't have debt and you can take care of your needs. So, I was passionate about being, doing things that I was passionate about.
That's a luxury. That's the advantage of graduating debt free.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, I didn't have any overhead, but
yeah, that's that sounds like a wonderful year too. What was the next phase?
Well, I had been working at these camps for in high school and college, and I got at that age, I was just out of college, so I was supposed to hire some college age staff, and so I basically hired all my friends that I had worked with in the past years. One of them being my future wife. So, after that year, I started dating her, and then we didn't date long because we'd known each other for several years. Got married quickly after that, and I moved near her family so that I could get to know her parents, so they would know me. And we just were working coffee shop and just random jobs that were short term because no one wanted to hire me for longer than that because they knew that I was only there temporarily. We get married. And we didn't have any good jobs, so I'm like, well, let's just move somewhere. So we decided to move to Pennsylvania, where I'd gone to college. Didn't have any jobs or any place to live or anything. So we just headed out road tripping, and my wife had secured a place on Craigslist. We were house sitting. So we were house sitting for somebody that didn't even know us. I don't know if I'd recommend that or not, but we stayed there for a month and just started looking for jobs. I got a job doing carpentry, and my wife got a job working at a doctor's office, and we did that for about a year, and then got back into camp. So I just love camp. I love being outside. I love being with kids. And we headed back to Oregon, where we're at now. And I got a job at a nonprofit there. I think started out at $25,000, which isn't much for. It's a living wage, I guess, but it's not much to try to save and try to get financially free. I don't know, but yeah.
So what, at this point, when you get this job at the nonprofit, several years have gone by, you've gotten married, you've really kind of just taken whatever jobs are available based on factors that really have nothing to do with money. It doesn't seem like a priority there, but what's the position that you're in there? Were you able to save anything? Did you have any debt?
Well, before I got married, I told my wife, there's the vows that you take, in riches and poor, being poor. And I'm like, let's focus on that poor one, because that's the kind of jobs I like to do, are the ones that don't make any money. Are you up for that? Right? And she's like, no problem. I love that you are passionate about what you're doing, and let's do this, And so, yeah, money wasn't the main factor at that point. And that was nice because we didn't have any debt, and we weren't accumulating any debt, but we really weren't gaining much traction on income at all, or any savings. We had maybe a couple $1,000s in savings, but we didn't have any credit card debt. We used cars, old cars, and we did everything ourselves. It was just kind of bootstrapping it, but it was fun. And that's what we were at that first year. And then we ran into this seminar, Dave Ramsey, and I was looking at that. I'm like, I think we could, my wife was working too. I'm like, I think we could maybe front end, just save as much as we can towards retirement. And then maybe once we have kids and we're making less income, maybe we could just quit putting money towards retirement, but maybe we could actually retire. Before that I was thinking I'm just going to work until I die and do stuff I like doing and not even think about retirement, which is kind of, looking back, wasn't the smartest thought, but that's what I was thinking. But once we saw Dave Ramsey, I'm like, you see the chart of a guy that starts contributing to his retirement earlier than the other person. I'm like, well, we're starting early, and we can just max everything out and just live really cheap. We were living in a 1-bedroom room. We were in a house that was like a common house, like a bunch of people lived together. We had a bedroom with a bathroom, but we were living with a bunch of other people. We were sharing meals. So it was really like $300 a month, I think. And then I think $40 a month or $50 a month for groceries. So our costs were super, super low. So at that point, when I was working at that camp.
And what year is it that you're what, like, this is how old are you guys and what year is this?
2007. I'm not sure how old I was. I'm 40 now. I just turned 40. But yeah, 2007 is when we started.
So that was 14 years ago because my daughter was born in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 2007, you're sitting there, and that's when you go to the Dave Ramsey seminar and begin kind of this new trajectory with your finances.
Yeah. Yep. And so we saved everything my wife made and some of mine. We had a company match. I think I put in, 3%, and then they would double that. So they would put in like an additional 6%. So we did that for her job and my job because she was working. The camp was owned by a university. So she worked for the university. I worked for the camp, and it was a nonprofit university and camp. So we saved I think we were maxing out Roths and saving some money for a house. But housing was like, in Oregon at that point, I think the cheapest house was about $300,000. And when you're making $25,000, well, and my wife's income, we were saving hers, but you're not going to be able to buy that kind of house. And then the market crashed and we were able to buy a house because we've been saving up a down payment, which is cool. We were actually the lowest offer for the house. There's like 5 offers the first week, and we just put our picture in there, and we're like telling our story, kind of like we love the house. Basically, the realtor told us to do it, and we did it, and they went with the lowest offer, which is us, which is pretty cool. Well, it is a big blessing for sure. So yeah, that was kind of the start.
So this is 1 year. This is 1 year after kind of your focus on finances after the Dave Ramsey seminars. You're able to save up enough to pay to be the lowest offer, but the winning offer on this house.
Yeah, I think it was actually. Let me look here. I think that was 2007 when we started. So I think it was 2009. So it was about 2 years living in that one room, and then no, actually, let me look here. No, we started renting a regular house. But that was like $545. We got a sweet deal on that too. Yeah, and then in 2011 is when we actually purchased our first house. And so so we're still working at the nonprofit, still saving money. My wife got pregnant that 2009, and so we both grew up. Our parents, one income, even though. It was just, that's kind of how we grew up, and it was kind of a nice way we enjoyed growing up with our moms at home, and it was more peaceful than what we were seeing out in the world where everyone's working tons of jobs, and it's just a little stressful. So we decided even though we're not going to save as much money or whatever, it was more part of our values to have somebody at home with the kids, at least at the beginning, and we've just kept doing that. Actually, my wife's still at home, and we've still been able to save money. But so, yeah, at that point, that's when I kind of got a little bit more focused when we had our first kid. I'm like, I was reading every book. I was reading like J.D. Roth's blog and Get Rich Slowly and all sorts of other stuff. We were just kind of focused more on that. But then my job got a little bit crazier. They let my boss go and they wanted me to do that job. We had another baby. And I was just looking, I'm like, I don't know if we can do this. So we started looking around, and then talking to family and friends. And my father-in-law was like, "Well, I've got a position. Do you want to try it for a year?" And so I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." And so I've been doing that for the last, I guess, 10 years now.
What were you doing at this? What were you doing at this job when your first kids were born? Was that carpentry still?
Oh, I did carpentry in Pennsylvania, and then I moved back to Oregon, and we started running the camp. So I was like a camp director for a day camp. And so I was hiring all the staff, doing all the curriculum.
Okay, got it. And so,
that kind of thing.
Got it. And during that time while you're camp director, that's when you're resetting the position, beginning to max out the retirement accounts. You and your wife are both working. Then she begins to stay home after your first one is born.
Yep. And
now you're looking for ways to raise the income with baby number 2 on the way. And that's when you make the shift to work for the father-in-law? Okay.
Yeah, it's partially income, partially just the situation at work. It was getting a little stressful. I was working about, with nonprofits, you work like 50, 60 hours, and it's just really hard to do that with a new baby. And yeah, I was just kind of feeling stretched at all ends. So, but we were saving the whole time. A big part of it was just frugality. We were, used cars. We for our shopping at thrift store, we'd go to this place called the Goodwill by the pound. It was like a Goodwill outlet, and you'd go in there and you'd have gloves.
I love the Goodwill outlet.
Yeah, craziest place ever. So we would just like get all of our clothes, all our baby clothes, all of our clothes, and I would search for like vintage clothes. And so I found all these vintage clothes, and then I would take them to the vintage resale shop, and they'd give me money for the vintage clothes I found, and that would pay for our shopping trip and maybe a little bit extra. So that was kind of fun. Our vacations, camping out, we would be house sitting. We wouldn't really do any crazy vacations. We'd go visit family, that kind of thing. So we just lived a frugal life, and we still do. And I think that's a big part of our success for sure.
I think that's a huge part of your success. I'm hearing you say, well, I didn't make a lot of money, but I didn't have any credit card debt. So we weren't saving for retirement, and we weren't, in the beginning, we weren't really doing much to further ourselves. You were doing a lot to further yourself because you weren't collecting credit card debt. You weren't trying to keep up with the Joneses. You weren't trying to be this consumer that a lot of Americans are. So you were doing a lot for yourself. And, discovering Dave Ramsey, his baby steps are great. I like the first three. We split paths after the first three, but they're really, really powerful when you get yourself in a position where you are not accumulating debt, because then instead of being able to save anything, you're paying off this debt or just accumulating more and not saving at all anyway. So you are doing really, really well. You have 2 kids, a stay-at-home mom, and you're still saving for retirement. You mentioned, I know I've said this on the show before, but you mentioned that you saw this thing with Dave Ramsey, that one person puts in this much money and starts saving early, whereas another person puts in more and starts saving a little bit later. I read that too. When you, if you start from age 22 to 30, you put in, X number of dollars per week or per month, you will have more money at retirement than the person who starts at 30, puts in 2X, and continues until 65. The power of compound interest is so enormous. The earlier you start, the better off you are. And it sounds like you started, in your early 20s, your mid 20s, you started saving for retirement?
Yeah, and I think they had a certain percentage with Dave Ramsey, like how much percentage of your income you should do. And we just didn't know, are we going to be able to keep doing that if we're going to work in nonprofits? Are we going to be able to keep putting money aside? So let's just max out even more than the percentage. Let's just do as much as we can front end, and then we won't have to do it in the back end if we aren't able to. So
I love that mindset.
We looked at that.
Well, so when you are switching your job at this point, this is like 2011, 2012, is that we're talking about with the job switch?
Yeah, that was 2011.
Does that involve a move?
Yeah, well, it didn't at first. So work was about an hour and a half away. So I was doing a big commute. So whenever we have a new thing, we kind of look around and see, well, what's the cheapest way to make this happen, which wasn't commuting, obviously. But we had just refinanced the house, and we were not sure we were going to keep the job for longer than a year. It was just kind of a trial basis. So there's a website called fueleconomy.gov. And so you can look at all sorts of different cars on there. And so I found the 1992 Honda Civic hatchback. You could get close to 50 miles to the gallon. In 1992, it seems like a kind of a crazy amount of mileage per gallon. But anyhow, you can kind of search around on that website. And so that's how we got the car for the commute. But eventually we moved to where I'm working here, and about 5 miles away, 2 miles away, something like that. But yeah. So
how did that change the game for you? Was that a better income situation? Were you what were the advantages of the job switch?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was probably close to double what I was getting paid at the nonprofit. So yeah, we just started saving more. Obviously, we're used to staying low in our expenses, and that was really tight, and we just kind of kept it tight as long as we could. And then now we have 4 kids, and expenses are getting up, and we are probably loosening it up a little bit. When you have more kids and more responsibilities, that you do have to open up that a little bit. So we have eased up some on the spending front.
As you are investing, what are you, or as you're saving money, where are you putting it?
So mostly we were doing Roth IRAs, and then I found the Mr. Money Mustache site, and then I found Mad Fientist, and then we started doing just regular index funds and like the 401k contributions to, and HSA. So we started doing all that for a couple of years. And then I think real estate, we'd done well on the first house. We had sold that one to move to this new house, and we made some good money just because of the market and because of kind of forced depreciation. We kind of fixed it up quite a bit. Bought a foreclosure where we're at now and did the same thing. And I don't know how we got into it. Eventually, I saw some stuff out in Michigan where I grew up, and I'm like, those are really cheap houses, and the rent is like the same as it is out here in Oregon. So we started looking out there, and that's kind of where our investment changed a little bit from
during this period. From 2007, when you kind of begin changing your trajectory with money and all that. What would you kind of say on average you're putting away per month through that period? And can you give us like highlights of the highs and lows there?
I don't know the actual dollar amount, to be honest. I know we were maxing out our IRAs, so that'd be like $11,000, $5,500 each, and then money towards HSA, money towards just saving. So yeah, we were saving as much as we could, and I don't even know what that was, but we were also living and giving and that kind of thing too. So I don't really know the numbers. I'm more of a general person than a specific.
Well, fair enough, but I want to point out a couple of big levers here. One, it sounds like you're living very frugally the entire time, even with the kids, relatively, in a relative sense there. Second, you did a live-in flip, which probably added 50 to 100, maybe plus, in nice add-on to your wealth there. It sounds like you've done that at least twice now with the second home that we're in the middle of discussing with this kind of stuff. You're maxing. You have a pretty good approach with the Roth IRAs. And the point I want to make is that there's no event here in this journey that we've had so far. It's a process that's very gradual and very repeatable. Nothing special financially speaking about the story, which I think is really powerful in a lot of ways. You're just following a very proven process over a so far 5-6 year period and amassing what I imagine to be a several hundred, perhaps close to $250,000 net worth at this point at this point in the story through this. So I admire it, and I think it's really cool how simple, if not easy, but how simple the approach is. Hey, we looked at the best car and bought it on the website. What an idea! I love it. But most people just don't do that. You're doing it for the efficiency point of view.
Yeah, I think we looked at it as we want to, have one person at home, and that's not normal, and we want to do kind of what our values are. So we, instead of trying to earn more money by having both of us work, let's just be frugal. Let's meal plan. Let's do everything that you guys talk about on the podcast. Let's do that. And we read books. My mic's sitting on one right now. It's called The Complete Tightwad Gazette by Amy Daxon. That was what I got it from the library just now, because it reminded me what we used to do. Like we still do, but we read all the stuff we could about how to be frugal, and we just kind of went down that path. And it's actually really fun. It's kind of a game. And when you have
game.
Yeah, and when you have kids, it kind of just simplifies your life. Anyhow, what do you do for entertainment? I mean, how expensive is it to go to the park? To get on a bike? It's not. You just kids kind of make it simple. So I like that about having kids. And a lot of joy and just a lot of fun.
The kids are the entertainment.
Exactly. Yep.
They're hilarious. They come up with like some of the craziest things. They don't have these societal norms. They just say whatever comes out of their mouth, and you're like, oh my goodness, that was hilarious. Write them all down too, because they all of a sudden you forget all the cute things that they say, but they're hilarious. Having kids. I have had friends who, oh, my kid's in this and this and this and this, and gymnastics and soccer and all these things. I'm like, that sounds like such a difficult life as an adult. Like, you have to manage all this stuff. Just take them to the park. They love it. They run around. They play on the swings. Oh my goodness, I could have pushed my daughter for 30 hours on the swing and she would still say more. So exactly, how much does that cost? It's nothing. You just walk down there or drive if it's, really far away. But yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive. And I think that frugality sometimes gets a bad rap. Like, oh, I have to give up everything. You seem like a really happy person. You seem like you have all the things that you want. I want to be outdoors. Well, being outdoors doesn't pay so much. Okay, so then I just won't buy so much stuff. Or I'll figure out a way to pay for it so I can still have it. Like, I want to have clothes, and I found these super cool vintage clothes, so I'm going to sell them and get enough money to pay for all the things that I bought. It's a wash, I guess. It's not a net anything. It's just a wash. So it's a net win because now you don't have to pay for your clothes. And
right.
Your housing, you lived with roommates. And some people are like, oh, I could never do that. Well, what is the saying, Scott? If you live like no other now, so you can live like no other later, or something like that.
I think Nate probably knows the Dave Ramsey quote for that better than us.
Yeah,
you got it. That's right.
If you can live like no one else, then you later on you can live like no one else. I think is something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing this story of this guy who's making $25,000 a year, and his wife is making a little bit too, and then now. You said that you doubled your income, so now you're at $50,000, and a lot of people listening are like, well, I make more than that, and I still can't save any money because, I have to buy all these things. You really don't have to buy all these things. You choose to buy all these things. So Nate is figuring out ways to have it without paying for it, and also not stealing it, right?
Right.
So overnight, in just 6 short years, you have constructed a several $100,000 net worth, I presume, at this point with this, and you're in the middle of you just made a move to be closer to your new job, an hour and a half away from where you were living previously. Is that where we are in the story?
Yep. So for a while, I tried riding my bike, and I realized that wasn't for me. It started raining, and I'm like, okay, I can't cut that out. But for most of our life, we had just one car. But then with the kids and everything, we have ended up doing 2 cars, but we never paid more than $4,000 for a car. We don't have the Toyota Corolla like everyone's supposed to, but we got the Avalon, so we're a little bit more,
fancy.
Fancy, yeah.
Ooh, bougie.
Yeah, right. So just kind of cheap cars, and they run well, and if they break, it's cheaper than a payment. So we kind of just go that way, and eventually we had a friend that was doing real estate, and I was seeing stuff in Michigan, and we were thinking about doing another live and flip with this house that we're in now, but it's perfect for us. Like,
and you're in Oregon at this point, right?
Yep. It's got has a great yard, and we're in Oregon. Yeah. Loving it. Close to the park. There's like a pool, like right across the street. I mean, it's really a great place for our family. So we didn't really want to flip it. We wanted, like, where are we going to go? Like, this is kind of perfect for us. And we're homeschooling the kids and stuff. So like, you need the yard, you need what we have here. So we were kind of like really at a struggle what to do with it. So we ended up refinancing the house and able to have enough cash to go get our first BRRRR in Michigan. And that started our real estate adventure. And that was probably, when was that? Got that written down here. That was in 2017.
So between then and between where we just were in the story and 2017, 4 years have gone by in this new job. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All that time, you're just continuing to save money, and the savings rate is increasing as you're closer to work. And
yeah, we were on kind of the Mr. Money mustache path, just index funds, and that's a blog. We found that blog, and we just say, oh, I can really, I wasn't sure how long I'd do this job. I'm like, maybe we'll get back to nonprofits and let's just focus on, saving now and we don't have to worry about it later. And then once we realized, oh, you don't have to put any more money towards retirement if we stopped right now. It's kind of like that Coast Fi, which I hadn't heard about until recently. But yeah, you look at that and you're like, yeah, we could just stop putting that towards, traditional retirement.
When was that moment for you?
I think that was like 2014, 15, something like that. Just kind of realized. So
did you stop contributing or did you continue?
Oh, we kept contributing, and then that's all we that's what we did. Kept contributing, and then we put some just in regular index funds, not in the traditional retirement accounts at that point.
Well, I know you're skipping ahead to the real estate stuff, which we want to get to for sure. But what I want to point out here is like, okay, we started in 2007, and in 2014 you reached Coast Fi. And it doesn't sound like you brought home like a huge income here, over $100,000 at any point during this. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. And you're just slogging it out with I call it the grind. You're just grinding it out over the period of years. But you're living your life. It seems like you're happy with everything that's going on with that, and you're stockpiling tens of thousands per year. It seems like in wealth in this that's compounding in a pretty meaningful way over this. And this is the not exciting part of the financial journey, which is why you're trying to get to the BRRRR on this. But this is the important stuff. Like this is you are getting rich in a really unexciting, highly repeatable fashion here over this period of 7 years that we just discussed. And it's because you're incredibly strong fundamentals that you're then able to begin slowly amassing an incredibly a financial fortress that makes you feel ready to take the next step with the real estate. Am I going too far with any of that, or is that generally the picture?
Yeah, no, it really didn't feel like a slog though. It just felt like life, and we were having fun. And I think a big part of it was just how I grew up. We didn't have a ton, but we didn't need a ton. Our life was very full, and I think a big part of it growing up that I try to emulate now is that my parents were just completely open and giving, and so they had a lot of community. They're part of the community. They're giving to the community. Didn't feel like we were missing anything, and that's how we still feel now. That's kind of how we live now, and just don't feel like we're missing anything. And I honestly don't think our life will change. We're just living our life, But with a future,
I think it's fantastic. And frankly, I am a little envious there because I've always liked my job here at BiggerPockets, of course, with that. But like the way I viewed it at first, and I think a lot of people view it, is they don't really like their job and they're looking forward to the day they can quit and become financially independent with that. And so it is a grind or a slog for those couple of years. But what you just went through with that, because they're just stockpiling money, and you have to do that for a period of years until you get past the hurdle, the Coast Fi or Lean Fi or whatever it is that you're looking for as your end target there. But you're like, no, this was automatic. We did exactly what we wanted to do and got pretty rich at the same time by just doing a lot of the basics right. So I love that. But I just wanted to point out that there were 4 years that went by prior to your real estate investment of you applying great fundamentals and enjoying your life. And that, I think, is an important thing to just point out before we get to the real estate journey.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, I want to define Coast Fi for people who are listening who may not have heard this topic. Nate, what does Coast Fi mean to you?
I think it's where you have enough saved up that you don't have to worry about retirement. I mean, some people have a certain date before 65 or something, but I think for us, we were looking at if we quit contributing, we can still live in our current income at age 65 and take out 4% and be able to survive on what we're living on, which isn't a lot. So it wasn't really, I think that's part of it. The less you live on, the less you have to save up for your retirement.
So you can't quit your job to sustain your lifestyle right now, but you can stop contributing anything to retirement and you'd be set at retirement. So you can take a lot less income to live your life today because you don't have to contribute to retirement anymore. Right.
And that's kind of what we were looking at with the whole, when I saw that Dave Ramsey chart comparing the two. We were trying to reach that place so that if we did have, we're still open to whatever life's going to throw at us and where we want to head, what kind of jobs we want to do. Right now, it's great. I work with my father-in-law. and I'm seeing a big value in that. Being able to work with family, just losing my dad this year has made me think more about that. So to be able to work with my father-in-law is pretty amazing opportunity. Just to have that relationship. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. I got sidetracked there a little bit.
I want to put a link to that Dave Ramsey picture that you're talking about, the Dave Ramsey graphs, in the show notes for this episode, which can be found at biggerpockets.com/moneyshow197. Because I want people to see just how powerful the compound interest is. It's like, I know what graph you're talking about, and it is, well, it was mind blowing to me. I don't know, maybe other people.
One minor nitpick there. I love that chart. Know exactly what we're referring to. Where, hey, if you contribute for 10 years in your 20s at whatever, $1,000 a month or $100 a month or something, 200, I forget the number, then you'll have more wealth than the person who contributed the exact same amount over the next 30 years at the end of retirement. Just note that assumes. I think I generally believe Dave Ramsey, and I could be wrong here. He was a 12% return.
Yeah.
On your money, and that's not true. That same phenomena is not true with those numbers if the return is 7% versus 12%, for example. So know that there's some nuance to look at, but in general, I think it's a very, very powerful concept to think about.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that percentage is pretty high.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So you look to Michigan. You said you did your first BRRRR, and for people who are not familiar with that term, that's an acronym that stands for, let me get it right, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So basically you're buying a house that is in disrepair or outdated. You rehab it, you fix it up, you rent it out, you go to a bank and refinance, essentially pulling out most or all of the money that you have into the property. And then you repeat, meaning you go find another property that's not so great and fix it up and do the same thing again.
Yep. Yeah.
So you have your first BRRRR, and you say first as though there's more than one.
Yeah, no, it was good. And it was actually pretty cosmetic. I mean, we spent some money in it. We changed all the flooring out, painting, a lot of cleaning, new toilets, new vanities, that kind of stuff. And it's not the best rental. It's a big house. But we were still be able to pull out our money, and we moved on and bought a duplex. That was our second BRRRR. And so we were kind of going to go down that pathway. Just get, I think we were going to try to just do 10 properties, because as you noticed, we're not really driven by money, really. We don't want to have our life consumed by money. So 10 properties would be plenty for us, and then we could live. So 10, I think we want 5 paid for and 5 that are leveraged, and that was kind of our goal. So we were going to head towards 10 BRRRRs and then pay off 5 and then see what's next. But we didn't get there. Life changed. So yeah. So we did the first property, got tenants in it. They're still in there. And then we got the second property as a duplex. And that place was just a mess.
Can you give us a very quick overview of the numbers behind the first property? We don't have to go into each one, but I think it would be helpful to be like, hey, how much cash did you need to bring to the table and to complete the deal? And
so we refinanced our house here, and we bought it super low, and the market had gone quite a bit. So we were able to use that money to cash out the house. So we didn't have to find a bank or anything to get the seed money to start on the...
And as a reminder, the reason you're able to refinance the house is both because of appreciation and because you fixed up your house that you're living in. You basically lived and flipped it to BRRRR it.
Yep, this was a foreclosure, the worst house in the best neighborhood kind of idea. So yeah, you're right. So let's see. I wrote that down somewhere here. Yeah, we bought that house for $111,000, and we put $18,000 into it, and then we refinanced it, and I think we got 124 out, so it wasn't quite a BRRRR. I think we had $5K still in it, and then we bought a duplex.
Oh, you lose.
Yeah, I lost. Yeah.
So you essentially have $5,000 in your first rental house, and it rents for how much?
Today it's like $2,100.
Okay. So 2.5 months worth of rent, and you've made all your money back. that you have
Well,
stuck in it.
what's the cash flow for the property?
I don't have that right in front of me, but as of today, that one's the last one we're working on trying to pay off. So I think the cash flow might be $700 or something like that. I mean, you have different people look at people look at it differently. You got your mortgage, you got your you got all sorts of other stuff. CapEx.
It's 140% cash and cash return if you put $5,000 in at the end of the day and get 77,000 some odd, I guess 8,400 a year in cash flow.
Yeah, that's not bad. Let's go to your duplex.
So then we got this duplex for $67,500, and put 40K into it, and
I need to go buy in Michigan.
Not anymore, but yeah, back in the day, just a couple years ago, and we refinanced and we only got 80. Well, yeah, so we got 85 out on that, and so we left 22,000 in there.
I love it. I think that's a big point key here is that most BRRRRs, I believe, you do not get to pull out all of your money that you put in. Doesn't mean you're losing. You're still you're into that property for 20,000 instead of 40,000 or whatever it would be, which is still very advantageous. And because of the way you're doing it, it sounds like you're adding value and upping the value and running the numbers pretty accurately. You're still not taking that much risk relative to other forms of investing.
Yeah, and it also is a blessing in it was that we got to be where my family was, like where I grew up, my parents and my sister. And now, like I mentioned earlier, now that my dad's passed, like I have all these great memories of working on the houses together. So I'd spend like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, some years, out there in Michigan with my family. And they were helping too. That's a big part of it. They're a big part of our success for sure. But yeah, just all the extra time that we got with my family was awesome. Yeah. So
you bought this property in 2017, and how over what period of time did you amass the next couple? What was the activity set here that resulted in your overall portfolio?
Yeah, so that was 2017, the first one, and then the next one was 2018, and then we bought 2 other houses in 2019. And then the pandemic hit. My parents, in the town that they live in, there was a breach of 3 dams downriver, and then the dam about 2 blocks from their house also failed. 40,000 people were evacuated. It flooded their house. It flooded their rental house next door. And yeah, my mom broke her arm right before that, and a pandemic, and then my uncle died. Cancer. My mom got cancer. My dad died of cancer, all in 1 year. So all that happened. Geez. Yeah, in 2020. And so, yeah, that reset everything. Like, you think about life a lot differently. And I think that's kind of why our shift happened from going into getting more properties. We wanted to focus on helping my parents get out of the damage, the flood damage, and then with the cancer and all that stuff, that just took over. And so now we're kind of we had all this sitting because we were just going to go all in. And so we pulled out all of our, maybe not recommended, but we pulled out all of our contributions, our Roth contributions, because those are tax-free to pull out. So we pulled all that out because we saw the return was so good in Michigan that we were just going to focus on that. And then we could always dump more money into retirement, traditional retirement if we needed to. But at that point, we're like, the return is so good. Let's just go in all in there. So we had this money sitting here ready to do more BRRRRs, more property. And then all this happened and we just tightened it up. We're like, we're not doing anything. Let's just pay off the debt. So that's what we've been focused on lately, is paying off these properties. So that post on Facebook that got us talking was that we finally had reached a point where our passive income was paying for our lifestyle, which was, because I wasn't planning on that because it was going to be a while because we were just doing BRRRRs. But when we paid everything down, that was pretty neat moment to see. And a big part of paying it down, I think, was that we were just tapped out emotionally. And the other part was I'd see my dad pass, he was healthy, and he found out in the summer and he's gone in the fall. So it's like, we don't have tomorrow, we have today. And so I have a insurance policy on me, but my wife's at home, she's homeschooling. We want that to keep happening, because it's great. The kids love it. She loves it. But if I were to go, life insurance would be kind of there, but it wouldn't be enough to have her keep doing that. So I figured if we pay off all the debt, then she can just keep doing it. We don't have to worry about that. And so that was also a big factor, was kind of a life insurance of sorts too. Not that, as we saw with the flood, not anything is guaranteed. So even though we're paying these things off, disaster can strike, but we're doing our best to make it so we have more options for the family, for sure.
So I think that's a really powerful why, and a big shift with that. And thank you for sharing all of that. And that's very personal, and got to be a really tough year with this. How many houses are we talking about here? I think I counted 4 properties at this point, at rental properties. Yeah. One of which was a duplex.
Yeah. So we have the 3 single families and the duplex.
Okay, and then are they all paid off at this point?
Everything but that first house that we BRRRR'd. So like the 2 single families and one duplex.
When do you expect to have the last one paid off?
I think we're hoping 12 to 18 months. That's a goal.
12 to 18 months.
Yep.
I can hear people right now yelling at the radio, no, don't pay it off, leverage, because money's so cheap. And Scott and I even are on camp, don't pay off your mortgage. But we're not living with you. So, what do you say to people who are like, oh, you should always just leverage all the time?
I mean, I agree. Mathematically, that's the way to go. But life isn't all about math, and for us, for us, it's kind of what I mentioned, the whole life circumstances we don't have any energy. We're tapped out, and we're living, and seeing what can happen overnight made me think more about my immediate, tomorrow, made me think about tomorrow. So paying off the debt right now is probably the quickest way for us to have stability in our family if I were to go tomorrow, which we're not planning on that, but you don't know. So I think you're right. Mathematically it isn't the best, but sometimes you just do what's best for your situation, and that I think that for us, seeing how our life is, that's the best way. So
I love that. Yeah, you do what's best for you. So Nate, let's talk about an emergency fund. I hear you saying that you have these all paid off. Do you also have an emergency fund for emergencies? What a horrible way to phrase that. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we have that one still we're paying off. So, but everything else is paid for. But we do have an emergency fund, 25, 30 right now, 30,000 just for emergencies, and then life emergencies, or it's combined. It's not separate, where you have your personal emergency fund and your house emergency reserves. We usually have more than that, but since we're paying down that last debt, we're a little bit more aggressive on that. And since the other ones are paid off, the cash flow is pretty good. So we'd be able to swing it, I think.
You have 4 rental properties, 1 duplex in there, so 5 rental units, and then you also have your primary residence. Did you pay off your primary residence as part of this, or
no?
Okay.
And is that in the plans?
Not really, not yet. Maybe someday. Okay. But yeah, it's not our immediate plan. I think we'll see what happens with life and how we're feeling. Once these things are paid off, what direction we're going to want to go. But before, our goal is to have 10 properties, rental properties, 5 of them paid for. So we're kind of doing it backwards, getting them paid for, the 4 or 5 paid for first, and then moving on to the leveraged ones. But yeah,
I think that's very interesting about that decision to pay off the rental properties, but not the primary residence. With that kind of stuff, do you have a reason for? Is there a strategy behind that, or is that What's the thought process there?
Mostly it's just the percentages, the debt.
Oh, the higher interest rate on the
higher interest rate
property.
Yeah.
That makes sense, actually. Okay.
And then do you have any plans to buy more rental properties after you've got these 4 paid off?
I think so. I think we just shifted for a short while. But yeah, we're just trying to feel out the waters with life and how we're feeling, emotionally and physically and with our kids and everything. So I think the goal is to keep going.
One question I have about the portfolio is you mentioned you flew out to Michigan and spent time with your family improving the properties. How do you think the returns and would it have been worthwhile if you had completely hired it out and done it remote out of state in Michigan? Would that have changed the profile of the returns and how well this has worked out for you?
Yeah, I'm sure it would have changed it. I don't know how. Could have been better. It could have been worse. I'm glad I did it though, because that was precious time with my dad. So I don't know.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering if I'm listening and I'm saying, wow, look at these returns. My belief is that a good part of those returns have to do with all of the other things, qualitative factors that went into those properties as well as the math that you clearly had mastered going into those things. And I just wonder if it would have been very expensive, for example, to contract out all of the labor that went into repairing those properties for someone who's listening and trying to repeat this. This may not be repeatable in the same sense without some of those advantages, or it may be, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, and a lot of it was family and friends helping them out, and how you can't ask for that, and we felt a little bad having that happen, but they wanted to invest in our future too, and it's something that my parents could do, and my sister and brother-in-law as well, and some other friends. So yeah, you can't. Yeah, I think you can't repeat that unless you have a bunch of family and friends that want to help you out. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and your work, or your situation in general allowed you to spend several weeks at a time working on these properties, at least a few times, on at least a few occasions as well.
Yep.
So
and
I would point those out. That
I would work probably 85 hours at least during those weeks that I was there too. I was just pushing it as hard as I could. I was only there for a short time, so I was really, really focused on getting it done. So yeah. So that did affect it for sure.
I don't want to like paint a rosy picture of BRRRR here for folks because of with that. Not that it can't be done, just that you didn't get all your money out. You went to a place that was very distant from where you lived, but you had connections, family, and you were willing to do 85 hours a week of work to prepare the properties as quickly as possible and upgrade them, adding value, increasing rents, and all that kind of stuff. That's how BRRRR can be so powerful, but you're not going to get that same profile that you just described anywhere in the country by just dumping money in from Denver while trying to be completely passive with that project. That's all I'm trying to point out. For folks who are listening.
No, we definitely forced it with our own sweat equity and our family's kindness.
Scott, I'm glad you pointed that out, because there is this, frankly, I think it's kind of a misconception that BRRRR is the best strategy for someone who's just starting out. And it can be a good strategy, but you're combining all the elements of flipping a house with all of the elements of renting out a house. So you're actually learning 2 different strategies at the same time. So if you're listening to this and thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Flipping a house is a lot of work. Rehabbing a house, even if it's just cosmetic, but especially if there's other things, if you're trying to do this yourself, that's a lot of work. Know that going in. Even if you're not trying to do it yourself, you're still trying to find a contractor. How easy is it to find a contractor, Scott? I've been doing this forever, and it's hard to find a contractor.
If you know any good ones, call me.
Yeah, I have a line on an electrician, Scott, so if you need one. But yeah, it can be a big, big, big task. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, because I'm getting ready to write an article. It's like, BRRRR might not be the best strategy for you if you're just starting out.
Well, it's a great strategy for you if it's your first investment after you've spent 7 years practicing excellent financial fundamentals with that, have a high savings rate, and really studied the market, know your math, and are willing to go out there and bust it for several weeks alongside friends, family, or even just by yourself and with some hired help there, then it's a great strategy and can make an enormous difference in your life in just 3 or 4 years, right? So which is what happened with that.
Yes, I take it back. BRRRR is an excellent way for beginners to become overnight successes in just 3 to 4 short years by leveraging all those things.
That's right.
Yeah, everyone's story is different, and it's not always repeatable, but you can always grab a little bit from everybody's story, I think.
Absolutely.
So for the next 12 to 18 months, you're going to be paying off this debt, and then you're going to start looking at the market again.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what happens because the market is increased so much. That duplex that is probably like 215,000 now. That house, that first house is probably 250. The other house we just paid cash for because we were going to BRRRR it. We paid 75,000 for it. It's probably worth 150 now, and we just painted it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like the whole market, I can't do this anymore in that market. So, we'll see. And that's another part of it. We couldn't find anything. It all just got switched overnight. So yeah, we'll see what happens in a year or a year and a half. But yeah, that's our goal, is to find a market or the same market, or I don't know. Our story changes as you noticed, and I think everyone's does. We were on an index path fund, and now we're moving to real estate. And my wife always like, you keep changing. I'm like, well, new opportunities come up, so it's hard to know.
I like that. Be fluid. When what is the phrase, life is what happens when you make other plans, or when you're busy making other plans. You plan for this, and then life's like, nope. Gonna just
I thought it was
give you a
man
big old
plans,
slap.
God laughs.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you look at my parents' story, and that's very true, right? They've everything came to them and it just hit them so hard. But I wish you guys knew my mom.
2020.
She's so joyful still, and hasn't. I mean, it's amazing. A testimony to her faith for sure. But yeah, she's an amazing lady.
Well, I think you're going to be very successful with your stuff. Your fundamentals are great. I have no doubt you're going to pay off that property probably a little sooner than you think, and then or hopefully. And I wish you the best of luck in finding that next market and continuing the story. When you find it after you complete the flip and the market's changed, then you can tell everybody about the secret market that you found. That's great for BRRRRing next with that.
Yeah, it's hard to find any right now for sure. Thank you.
Well, should we move on to the famous 4 here?
Yeah.
I think it's time.
I think
Nate,
so.
are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Nate, what is your favorite finance book?
It's hard to narrow it down. It really is. So I was looking around. Okay. I mean, that Tightwad Gazette thing I mentioned was pretty great. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book here is really good. Coach Carson talks about it.
Wealth one house at a time.
Yeah. Chad Carson has had that guy on his podcast, and it kind of a simple way to do one house at a time, pay them off in 15 years, and it's a really basic book, but it was a good one for us. All the stuff you guys have put out, I've read all those books. They're wonderful. So yeah, a lot of resources. It's amazing. So I don't have one, but yeah.
Well, we'll just link to all those books in the show notes. So, and of course, we're always happy to plug our BiggerPockets books there as well. What was your biggest money mistake?
My wife keeps me from making too many of those, but probably, I mean, it could be taking out the retirement. We'll see about that in the future. It could be that, or it could be maybe selling our house to get this one. If I would have known what I knew now, I probably would have kept that first house we bought and rented it out
as a rental.
Yeah.
Well, I love that those are opportunity cost mistakes, and that says that, hey, you really didn't you really haven't had a big blunder with money in your past compared, like a lot of people have bought a car that really cost them or lost tons of money on a house. You're saying, did I make the right resource allocation decision? Time will only tell, but you made the highest probability bet that you could with the information you have at the time with that. And I want to be clear, you did not take money out of you did not liquidate a retirement account and realize income, a taxable income, like you would if you liquidated a 401k. You did not pay penalties on that. You just withdrew the contributions to Roth IRAs, which is a non-taxable event and is something that you have the option to do when contributing to Roth IRAs. Is that right?
That's mostly right. I got laid off for like 2 weeks, so I did take advantage of we have a work plan that's not very good. It has a high management fee, so I took that out, and we're paying that taxes on that for the next 3 years, but we're not getting the penalty for that. So I did do that as well.
Okay, so you took some money out of a tax deferred account and will pay taxes on it, but not penalties.
Yeah, because of the law, the new rules from if you're affected by coronavirus with layoffs or anything like that. Since I decided to do that. Well, and that time will tell on that too. Nope.
Well, makes sense, but I think that if you're gonna make money mistakes, those are the type to make. Is like, yeah. Here's like, I think this is the better bet. I've done a lot of research. I'm gonna go for it and see how it plays out. To me, I completely respect. I have a lot of respect for mistakes, quote unquote, like that. I think that's great.
Well, and if you find some windfall, you can repay that back. You don't have to take all of it out and then just pay taxes on it. If you pay it back before 3 years are up, you have the opportunity to. It's like a loan.
Yeah.
More than withdraw with how. I'm trying to say withdrawment, but that's not a right
withdrawal
word.
Withdrawal.
Withdraw. That doesn't sound right either. Okay. Moving along. Nate, what is your best piece of advice for people who are just starting out?
Get out of debt. If you have debt, if you don't, and if you do, either way, look at your bank statements and just see where your money's going. Read Your Money or Your Life and follow their direction. Map out what you've always made. Just go through that book and then look at your expenses and see where your money's going and start on the worst offenders and try to hack each one. Like the house hack's great. Any of that, just keep going down the list. And we still do that every year. We look at our expenses and see if there's a better way. Like we just got a new phone plan with Comcast. It's like, if you don't have data, it is so cheap. I don't know if you guys have Xfinity Comcast. If you're Xfinity Comcast subscriber for internet, you can do their phone plan and it's super cheap. Like my wife, our daughter, and my mom, $22 a month total.
But that gives you a limitation on data that you have to be smart about. Is that right?
Yeah, you have 1 gig of data shared, but we just turn the data off, and we're in internet most of our lives. And do you really need to be looking at your phone your whole life? I mean, when you're out and about, and Xfinity has so many hotspots in town. I found, like you're at the mall or you're wherever, they're everywhere. You don't need it. And if you do, you just turn it on for a second. You really don't need data, in my opinion. Unless you're like, that's your job. But we probably should be less connected than we are. And that's a different topic, but.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But yeah, you can keep looking at different parts of your budget like that. So instead of paying $100 a month, you're paying $22 and you're paying, it's everybody's phone. I don't know. So yeah, you just look at all the options of your different personal finance and try to bring it down as low as you can.
Love it. What is your favorite joke to tell at parties?
Well, I try to think of jokes that have never been told before. And so this is one you probably never heard, I'm sure. Is your refrigerator running?
Yes, I think so.
Well, you better go catch it. Okay, that one's been done a lot. I couldn't think of any good ones. I thought, let's just think of the joke that's been told the most. And that's probably the one. No. Yeah, I don't know.
I love it. I think it's fantastic.
My daughter said I should do this one. It's what do you call a pencil with two erasers?
I don't know.
No, don't worry about it. It's pointless.
Pointless. Pointless and dull pencil joke. That's fantastic.
Okay, Nate, where can people find out more about you?
I don't have too many places. I guess I'm on BiggerPockets, like the real estate place, and you can give them my email if they want to email me. It's just my name, my full name, nathanforbes@gmail.com. And that's probably the best two places to find me. I would say Facebook,
Okay,
but
awesome.
I probably would just message you, but I wouldn't really friend you because I've got all my kids' stuff on there.
Okay. Good point. Okay. Well, fantastic, Nate. This was awesome. I love your point of view. I love the whole frugality thing as not a punishment, but just as a way of life. I think a lot of people look at frugality and they're like, oh, well, I could never do that. And look at Nate. Nate made $5,000 a year and still didn't have any debt. Nate wins. Nate is doing awesome. And I'm so thankful that you came on our show today to share your story.
Yeah, thank you. This was a wonderful story and really effective approach. Love it.
Thanks for having me. And I just have to say, it's a community. You know, it's you guys, it's family, friends. There's a lot of blessings that have helped us get to this point. So yeah, thank you guys for what you do. It's awesome. It really helps. It's probably more than you know, I'm sure, the ripple effect.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
the community is so important. Last week we spoke with Brenda Olmos, and she said, one of the biggest things is to surround myself with people who don't care what kind of car I drive and don't care about, what kind of clothes I wear and whatever. And that's super powerful. And that's, what we're trying to create here is just, here's a community of people who think like you do. Frugal weirdos.
Yeah. And when you strip all that other stuff away, they see who you actually are instead of your stuff. So I think it's better in many ways. Yeah. So thank you guys.
Well, I agree, but it is mine. So of course I would agree. Okay. Well, thank you, Nate. We will talk to you soon. Have a good day. All
right. Talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Okay. That was Nate Forbes. Scott, what did you think of Nate's story?
I thought it was great. I think it was, look, it's been a 13, 14-year journey to FI since discovering Dave Ramsey and beginning to kind of move some of his financial position forward. And I think it's just a highly repeatable approach here. There was no flashy event, no exciting turn of events, there were some challenges and hardships, especially in the last year, which I'm sure have been incredibly tough for him. But what I think is so great about it is, hey, here's a guy with 4 kids and 1 income household who is able to just do the fundamentals right over a sustained period of time, get to coast FI, and then pay off a rental property portfolio relatively quickly. I mean, that's remarkable, and I think it's really impressive, and I hope that it inspires a lot of people to rethink a lot of aspects of their lives and see if they can't achieve a similar result, even if they do have large families.
Scott, this story kind of reminds me of the episode with Jordan Clint.
Jordan Clint, for those who are wondering, is the guy with the enormous beard. Of course, if you listened to it, you wouldn't have seen the beard, but he had a great beard.
Yes.
That was episode 63.
Episode 63. Wow, Scott's faster than I am today. Whew.
Yeah, I Googled it.
I normally have them at my fingertips, but I was slow today. But yeah, his story reminds me of Jordan. Jordan has 5 kids, but he's still investing in real estate. He has a job, but his wife is a stay-at-home mom. The bottom line is you can absolutely reach financial independence with kids without a computer programmer salary. You just have to be intentional with your spending. Consciously don't spend every dime that you make. Invest it wisely. Be prepared to make different choices than other people who aren't on the financial independence path. And you will be able to make it. You're not going to make it if you spend every dime you make. You don't invest anything in the future. You buy all the latest and greatest everything there is and try to keep up with the Joneses. That's just not the recipe for financial independence. And, here's yet another story of I did it, and I didn't do it in a flashy, exciting way, but I did it. And I mean, he's he's 40 now. He's coast fi with 4 kids and a low income. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And he had a few advantages that he took advantage of and worked on, and they made his life and his finances better and that kind of stuff. And I think that's the creativity you're going to have to bring to the table with a large family and those types of things. But I think it was really fun and really exciting, and go Nate.
Yep. Go Nate. Okay, Scott, should we get out of here?
Let's do it.
Okay, from episode 197 of the BiggerPockets Money Podcast, he is Scott Trench. I am Mindy Jensen saying, gotta go, Buffalo.